The conference room fell silent as Marcus Chen stood at the head of the polished mahogany table, his jaw clenched so tight it could crack diamonds. Outside, snowflakes drifted past the floor, tip-ceiling windows of the 47th floor covering Manhattan in a deceptive blanket of peace. Inside, the air felt like broken glass. It was Christmas Eve, and Marcus had just fired his entire company, all 237 employees, with a single email sent at 11:47 p.m. No severance beyond the legal minimum. No explanation beyond restructuring. No mercy for the season or the lives he was shattering. He told himself it was business, just business, as he watched the building empty through the security cameras, employees stumbling out into the snowy night clutching cardboard boxes and shattered dreams. He poured himself another scotch, the amber liquid doing nothing to warm the ice that had formed around his heart over the past 3 years since the scandal that nearly destroyed everything he built. What Marcus didn't know was that in the basement of his gleaming tower, one person remained. An elderly janitor named Thomas hadn't received the email because he didn't have a company account. He was too old for technology, they said, too simple to need one. He arrived at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning like he had for the past 12 years, humming an old hymn as he pushed his cleaning cart through the abandoned corridors, not yet realizing he was cleaning a graveyard. A second, if you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, please hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more meaningful stories to life. Now, let's continue with what happened next. Marcus woke on Christmas morning in his penthouse apartment to a silence so complete it felt like the world had ended. No calls, no messages. Even his mother hadn't reached out. But then again, they hadn't spoken in 2 years. Not since he missed her cancer surgery to close a deal in Singapore. He stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. At 42, he looked 60. His eyes were hollow caves where ambition had once burned bright. The scandal 3 years ago had been devastating. His CFO had embezzled millions, nearly bankrupting the company and destroying Marcus's reputation. He had clawed his way back through ruthless cost-cutting, brutal efficiency, and a philosophy he repeated like a mantra: trust no one, feel nothing, survive at all costs. The company was profitable again, but it was a kingdom of ashes, and he was a king with no subjects. Something gnawed at him that morning, something he couldn't name. Maybe it was the unnatural quiet, or maybe it was the ghost of the man he used to be, the one who started his tech company in a garage, with a dream of changing the world, not just extracting profit from it. Against his better judgment, Marcus found himself driving to the office. The streets were empty, families tucked inside warm homes, exchanging gifts and laughter. He had neither. The building was dark except for a single light in the basement. Marcus frowned, checking his watch. 9:47 a.m. Everyone should be gone. Everyone should be with their families, cursing his name over Christmas dinner. He took the elevator down, each floor descending feeling like a journey into his own buried conscience. He found Thomas in the cafeteria, carefully polishing tables that no one would sit at again. The old man looked up, his weathered face breaking into a warm smile that Marcus hadn't seen directed at him in years. Thomas didn't know. He didn't know that the company was finished, that this was his last day, that his paycheck would bounce, that his health insurance, which covered his wife's dialysis treatments, would be terminated in 72 hours. Marcus opened his mouth to deliver the news, to end this uncomfortable encounter and return to his planned day of solitude and scotch. But before he could speak, Thomas reached into his cart and pulled out a small wrapped package, the paper wrinkled and reused, the bow made from what looked like old ribbon tied with arthritic fingers. The old man's eyes twinkled with something Marcus had forgotten existed, genuine, uncomplicated joy. Thomas pressed the gift into Marcus's hands with both of his own, the skin paper, thin and spotted with age. He told Marcus that he knew the boss was going through a hard time, that the weight of leadership was heavy, that he prayed for him every single day. He said that he remembered when Marcus first bought this building, how he used to walk through every floor learning everyone's names, asking about their families, staying late to help the cleaning crew when they were short-staffed. He said that man was still in there somewhere, just lost, and this gift was a reminder of who he really was. Marcus stood frozen, the small package burning in his hands like hot coal. Thomas patted his shoulder with a gentleness that shattered something in Marcus's chest, then shuffled away, humming that same hymn, pushing his cart toward the next empty room. Marcus sank into one of the cafeteria chairs and stared at the gift. His hands trembled as he unwrapped it, and what he found inside made his carefully constructed walls crumble to dust. It was a photograph in a simple wooden frame, clearly handmade. The photo showed Marcus from 12 years ago at the company's first Christmas party, surrounded by his original team of 15 people. They were in that cramped garage office, laughing, wearing ridiculous Santa hats, holding up a homemade banner that read, "Changing the world, one coat at a time." Marcus was in the center, his arm around his then-girlfriend Sarah, his smile genuine and unguarded. He was happy. He was good. He was the man his mother raised him to be before grief and betrayal turned him into something else entirely. Taped to the back of the frame was a handwritten note on lined paper, the handwriting shaky but clear. Thomas had written that he kept this photo because it reminded him why he loved working here, that he believed the man in this picture was the real Marcus Chen, and that everyone deserves the chance to find their way back home, especially at Christmas. He wrote that he would keep praying for him, and that God wasn't finished with his story yet. Marcus sat in that empty cafeteria and wept. He wept for the man he'd become, for the people he'd hurt, for the dreams he'd abandoned in the name of survival. He wept for his mother's disappointment, for Sarah who left when he chose revenge over healing, for the 237 families he devastated with a single click. The tears came from a place so deep he didn't know it still existed, purging years of accumulated bitterness and fear. When Thomas returned an hour later, he found Marcus still sitting there, the photo clutched to his chest. The old man sat down beside him without a word, just present, just there, offering the kind of grace that doesn't require explanation or worthiness. Marcus finally found his voice and told him everything. About the firings, about the bankruptcy he was facing even after all the cuts, about how he'd become the villain in his own story and didn't know how to stop. Thomas listened with the patience of someone who'd lived long enough to know that broken things could be mended and lost people could be found. When Marcus finished, the old janitor told him a story about his own son, who made terrible mistakes and pushed everyone away, who died alone and angry, and how Thomas's greatest regret was giving up on him instead of fighting harder to bring him back to himself. He told Marcus that it wasn't too late, that Christmas was about impossible births and resurrect hope, and that the first step back to the light was always the hardest, but always worth taking. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to let us know in the comments. Write hope if you believe people can change, if you believe kindness can break through even the hardest hearts. Your words create a community of light in this world. What happened next would become legend in business circles for years to come. Marcus spent Christmas Day in his office, but not drinking scotch in the dark. He was on the phone calling every single person he'd fired. He couldn't undo what he'd done, but he could do what came next with integrity. He sold his penthouse, his cars, his art collection. He restructured the company with transparency, bringing employees back as partners with equity stakes. He took a salary cut of 90%. He instituted profit sharing and created a fund for employees facing medical hardships, seeding it with the money from his personal liquidations. It didn't happen overnight. Some people wouldn't forgive him, and he understood that. Some relationships were broken beyond repair. The company had to downsize genuinely, but this time with humanity, with support, with honest communication about why each decision was made. Marcus started attending his mother's chemotherapy appointments. He volunteered at Thomas's church. He learned the names of every person in his building again, not just the executives but the security guards, the cafeteria workers, the mail clerks. 5 years later, on another Christmas Eve, Marcus stood in a very different conference room. The company had survived and then thrived, rebuilt on a foundation of purpose rather than just profit. They'd created technology that genuinely helped people, and the culture had become one that attracted the best talent, not with money alone, but with meaning. On the wall behind Marcus hung that photograph from the garage days, and beside it, a newer photo from this year's Christmas party. A company of 387 people, diverse and laughing, holding a banner that read, "Second chances change everything." Thomas was in that photo too, now officially retired but still stopping by every week to have lunch with Marcus, to talk about life and faith in the slow, difficult work of becoming better versions of themselves. The old janitor's wife had survived her health crisis. Marcus had paid for a treatment that insurance wouldn't cover, and when Thomas tried to refuse, Marcus told him it wasn't charity, it was paying forward a gift that saved his life. As snow fell outside on this Christmas Eve, Marcus stood at the window and thought about how close he'd come to losing everything that mattered, while believing he was saving it. He thought about how one act of unexpected kindness from someone society barely noticed had cracked open a door in his heart he thought was sealed forever. He thought about how the smallest lights often shine brightest in the deepest darkness, and how sometimes the people we overlook are the ones carrying exactly what we need to find our way home. The gift Thomas gave him wasn't really a photograph or a note. It was a mirror that showed Marcus who he used to be and who he could become again. It was a bridge across the chasm between the man he'd become and the man he was meant to be. It was proof that redemption isn't about deserving it. It's about accepting it when grace shows up in unexpected packages, wrapped in wrinkled paper, offered by weathered hands that never stopped believing the best in people, even when they showed their worst. As the office filled with employees arriving for the company Christmas party, Marcus touched the wooden frame now sitting on his desk and whispered a prayer of gratitude for the janitor, who saw the king beneath the tyrant, the hurt beneath the hardness, and who loved him back to life with nothing more than a gift and the gentle insistence that his story wasn't over yet. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, from the people we least expect, in the moments when we've given up on ourselves entirely. And sometimes, just sometimes, Christmas miracles are real, not because circumstances magically change, but because hearts finally do. If this story moved you, touched your heart, or reminded you of the power of kindness, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this message today, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a comment telling us about a time someone's unexpected kindness changed your life. Together, we can remind each other that hope is always possible, and that who we've been doesn't have to define who we become. Thank you for being part of this community of light. Merry Christmas, and may you both give and receive the kind of grace that changes everything.